I quit. Spirit Adrift is no more. I'm done. I'm quitting music forever. This is Big Riff Energy, episode 120. Welcome back. Sorry, there's been a pretty big gap in episodes here. Obviously, have a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. You guys have probably noticed that Spirit Adrift released an album entitled Infinite Illumination. It is album number 6, in addition to a lot of EPs and splits and singles and one-offs and weird stuff. It is the final Spirit Adrift album ever. I'll get into that. I'll talk a little bit about the album. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I'm quitting music, which if you've been following this channel for a while, it's probably not that big a surprise. Okay, let's talk about the record. First of all, thank you guys so much, everybody who's picked it up. It is like astounding how well it's doing, and that's because of you guys. Decibel Magazine did an exclusive vinyl variant of 100, and that was gone the first day. The first $20 spin variant was gone the first day, and the second $20 spin variant was gone the second day. There's still variant 3 over at $20 spin, but it's going to be gone like real quick. And I'm just going to give you guys some insider info here. The pressing plants over in the Czech Republic are pretty backed up. We're not sure why, but pick up that green one if you're trying to get the vinyl in a timely fashion. Otherwise, any variant that you grab after that, just grab the album. If you want the album, grab it now. This is not some like hype sales pitch thing. I'm letting y'all know if you want to have that in your hands by May 15th, you want to get it right now. Believe me. So thank you guys, man. You guys know me. I'm a physical material guy when it comes to music. You know, I prefer vinyl specifically. So it's been really cool to see that we made something that you guys think is worthy of spending your hard-earned money on to have a physical vinyl copy of. So thank you. If you guys don't know about the album, I'll throw up the Eric Roper artwork. I'm just going to put it up on the whole screen. I've been wanting to work with Eric since I was 16, and I saw the cover artwork for High on Fire, Blessed Black Wings. And Eric wanted as much input as humanly possible. So I sent him really bad sketches and different depictions of biblically accurate angels, told him what the various ideas involved with the album are. I also want to shout out Lee Guntert. I think I'm saying that correctly. A friend of the show who I've done quite a bit of work with at this point. I'll throw up Lee's artwork. He did the inner gatefold artwork for the vinyl. It's kind of like the shadow version of the Eric Roper thing. I don't want to say it's heaven and hell, but you know, light and dark, light and shade, that sort of thing. So, man, I'm honored to work with those guys. Again, I've been wanting to work with Eric Roper forever. So I'm just psyched that worked out. He was kind of the last album artist on my bucket list who I've yet to work with. So I appreciate you guys for the great artwork. I made a little like post from the Spirit Adrift stories today about the guest guitar players. I want to shout out Steve from Crypt Sermon and Deva, who played on White Death. I want to shout out James Murphy, one of my all-time favorite guitar players. I mean, him and Chuck going back and forth on Spiritual Healing, Death, changed my life, you know, looking at the liner notes to figure out who's playing what. And getting to go back and forth with James Murphy is like a dream come true. So he plays on I Am Sustained. He and I kind of do a little back and forth towards the end of that song. He does some stuff earlier in the song as well. And then shout out to my dear friend Arthur Rizik, who plays the solo on the last song, Where Once There Was an Ocean. Yeah, shout out to Jeff Henson for tracking it. Shout out to Zeus for mixing and mastering it. Everybody did a phenomenal job. I'll put links in the description if you want to pick the record up, 20buckspin.com. And if you need merch or Ghosts at the Gallows, the vinyl, I think I'm the only person that even has it in the world right now. Go to the Spirit Adrift Bandcamp. I'll drop a link there as well. They I don't know if it was like 30 states or something. I haven't had that much of a chance to check into it, but it's been ruled. Um, yeah, I need to look more into it, but I saw that it's been ruled that Live Nation is an illegal monopoly, which I've been talking about on this show since this show existed. And this directly ties into the subject of today, why I'm quitting music forever. That's a part of it, man. By the way, I'm not quitting music forever. This is a clickbait title to get people to click on this who might not normally do it. I'm not quitting music forever. This is the last Spirit Adrift record, and Spirit Adrift did play our last show March 20th. I guess I could talk a little bit about that first. We played San Antonio March 20th. Our friend Alex, who is great, Alex All Access on Instagram, she's working on a little mini documentary of that day / evening. It was just perfect, man. It was perfect. You know, we're super tight with Crowbar. We toured with them for about 5 weeks a few years ago. I've been going to New Orleans since I was 17. I've been tight with Jimmy Bauer since about that time, so 20 years basically. Um, all that New Orleans stuff was so instrumental in my life as far as discovering cool music, just getting really, really raw, pure experience as to what it's like being in underground bands and yeah, in the trenches, like really, really in the trenches. So I got to see a lot of stuff and experience a lot of stuff firsthand through that whole New Orleans scene. But on top of that, all those guys like Jimmy and I were talking about it at the show. Like he introduced me to so much stuff. Uh, Me being a kid in a small town with where nobody was really into metal or anything like that, didn't have older siblings. Some of those New Orleans guys kind of acted as that gateway. Like Jimmy turned me on to Trouble, Carnivore, but then also like weird 70s stuff like Captain Beyond and Free, Bad Company, all the Paul Rogers stuff. Um, and then Mike from I Hate God and I were reminiscing about like he was kind of turning me on to more the slightly more underground, like hardcore punk stuff, like Blast, bands like that. So those guys were really like mentors to me. So to be able to play one last Spirit Adrift show, hang out with those dudes all day. Ben from Soylent Green was randomly there. Was not expecting to see him. He was working with Crowbar. It was just like such a full circle, perfect moment. It just felt so perfect. And people were asking me, do you feel sad? Do you feel bittersweet? And I can honestly say no. Like it just was, got to hang out with those dudes all day long and play with them and clown around and just say the most fucking ridiculous shit to each other all day long and yeah, reminisce, and it was just perfect. So yeah, like I said, our friend Alex is working on a little mini documentary about that evening, which will be on this channel when it's finished. So be on the lookout for that. The younger fans, man, holy shit. Like I don't want to disrespect them. I call them TikTok kids or Gen Z. I think it might almost even be getting into Gen Alpha barely now, but definitely Gen Z. These kids are for real, man. Like they knew every word of every Crowbar song. Any song that was playing just on the house music between bands, they were singing every word. Like right when we got done playing Bleed the Freak, Alice in Chains came on, and they were like, or it might have been right before we played, but they knew like every word. I think most of these younger kids were unfamiliar with Spirit Adrift, but when we played it, the response was just like astounding, man, astounding. Like one of the best, most energetic responses we've ever had, and it was these young kids, man. I'm just like so hopeful and impressed with the youngins, like really. It doesn't seem like they're into like trendiness. It seems like they're really, really passionate about what they're into. They're there because they love it, not because they want to look cool or whatever. Uh, and that's what's up, man. Like right before we started playing, I was plugging in my pedal board and I was kind of telling the kids like, "Hey, just keep an eye out on these like these power cables in my pedal board. If my guitar goes out or whatever, just like will you plug this back in for me?" And they were all like, "Yeah, sure, sure." And we were getting stage divers the whole time, but they would get on stage and be so mindful of not stepping on pedals or unplugging cables, which is like not something I'm used to at all. Usually people are just stomping all over your shit and pouring beer on it and whatever. But these kids, they were just like so respectful not to like fuck up the show or the gear or whatever, but then they run across the stage and do a backflip, you know. It was just awesome, man. It gave me a lot of hope. Again, it was just so great to catch up with all the Crowbar camp and the I Hate God camp and everybody in San Antonio. So it was a perfect send off. Uh, yeah, I don't want to play another show because it was just, I want that to be the memory of the last Spirit Drift show. Is legitimately perfect. Um, yeah. So Live Nation is a monopoly. I've been telling y'all that. I'm going to get into the reasons why this is the last Spirit Drift record and why that was the last Spirit Adrift show. I've been doing a lot of interviews, and something I kind of forgot about doing interviews. I'll have these long ass like Zoom conversations or phone conversations, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever. Long form, long, complex thoughts and expressions with a lot of nuance, right? And these interviews come out in print and most of what I say gets cut out. Just otherwise it would be way too long. Nobody would read it. But I read somebody I'm going to get to emails, fan emails or whatever, listener emails here in a minute. A few people were asking me, but one person in particular was asking about Christianity and metal, and so I'll get into that. But like I was reading interviews back that I did where they're saying like Nate Garrett, who is himself a Christian, and I'm like, what the fuck? Did I say that? Maybe I did say that. I don't know, just to get more people to pay attention or something, but I don't remember saying that. You know, I'm like, I know that we talked about the Bible and Christianity and satanic music versus like Christian themes and biblical themes. I'm like, did I say I'm a Christian? I don't know. So I'll get into that later. But the part of the benefit of having something like a podcast is what I'm saying is not going to get cut down and distilled down into um inaccurate versions of like the full truth of what I'm saying. So if you're reading interviews that I did for this record about like why it's the last record, uh what the record's about, what I'm going through, whatever, unless you're hearing or seeing me say it, like I'm about to do a long form podcast with a guy, so you'll be hearing and seeing me explain myself fully unedited, you know? Unless you see me or hear me say it, or it's a quote and it's like not cut at all, which you have no way of knowing if it's cut, take everything you read about me or this album with a grain of salt. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anybody's lying on me or anything like that or intentionally misrepresenting me. I would just say the first day that interviews started popping out, I'm like reading them and I'm like, I don't remember saying that. That's not what I said. Like maybe I said something similar to that, but there's so much more that went with it that yeah. So we'll get into the Christianity and metal and whether or not Infinite Illumination is a Christian album or whether or not I'm a Christian, not that it matters. Uh, but yeah, I want to explain this whole situation fully, unedited, uh, because I feel like you guys deserve that, and I feel like the stuff I've been reading is not like not right, if that makes sense. So reason number one, I guess I'll go in maybe chronological order, not necessarily order of importance. Reason number one, the industry stuff. I've been talking about it since day one of this podcast. Live Nation is a monopoly. I've been saying that they're evil and that they're a monopoly since day one. It's been frustrating to be somebody in my position. We played Metal Injection Fest in LA and there was no backline, right? And so we had to ask around. Ex Mortis, shout out to Ex Mortis, provided us with the backline. So I had to talk some shit on stage. You know, it was at House of Blues, Live Nation venue. So at some point in our set, I was like, shout out to Ex Mortis, thanks for the backline. Um, I guess Live Nation, even though they're taking all our money from merch cuts, can't afford to rent a backline for the day. And my friend Frank, who pretty much owns and operates Metal Injection, he said he was in the Live Nation like box and they all got up and walked out. But you know what, man? It's frustrating to know that every single person in my position feels the same way and doesn't do anything about it. I see little things like Jeff from Carcass wears that shirt that says Evil Nation and it's like the Live Nation logo. You're not going unnoticed, Jeff from Carcass. But you know, and then I see dudes in bands like on Instagram reposting these memes about how merch cuts are evil or whatever, and they're paying merch cuts. They're not doing shit about it. Whereas like Spirit Adrift do anything we possibly can not to pay that merch cut. I mean, we've gone to extreme lengths not to do it. And it's a philosophical thing for me, man. If something is evil, like speaking out against it publicly and essentially virtue signaling to me is nothing. You're doing nothing. You have to actually like not participate in it. And if that means you have to suffer some consequences, that's fine. But it's like a form of protest to me. I grew up idolizing guys like Muhammad Ali and dudes like that. I'm not comparing myself to him, but like they were gonna make him go to Vietnam. He said, "Fuck you." So they're like, well, we're going to strip your belt. And he said, no, you're not. And he threw it off a bridge into the river in Kentucky, right? That's the kind of shit I grew up like. That's a man. Like, that is not even just a man, but somebody that actually follows through and takes action to support what they believe in, right? So, this whole industry shit, it's a lot of kumbaya stuff on the surface. And don't get it twisted. Like, my extended family I have met through touring like in this underground metal thing, like uh I barely have any blood relatives left. And so my real family are people that I've connected with through touring and through playing in metal bands and all this. So I'm not talking about any of my friends, but there's just this contingency in this world that we're in of people who are all fucking kumbaya on the surface and they seem so kind and progressive and whatever, and they are cutting each other's throats behind the scenes. They are stabbing good people in the back behind the scenes. And the music industry's always been like that, but like in underground metal, we before COVID, we had like a community and everybody really did love each other and everybody really did try to lift each other up. It was that philosophy of like a rising sea lifts all ships, right? Now it's a bunch of rats going around like chewing holes in each other's ships. You know, nobody's trying to lift each other's ships. I'm telling you, man, it's all this kumbaya shit on social media and even like face to face. But it's just not the kind of stuff that I like to participate in, period. Um, I've had to shake people down to get paid. I mean, I've had to do that for a long time. I've done that on behalf of other bands for a long time, but when it's my own art and I'm having to like threaten people, look up people's home addresses, show up at their home, rob people because they allegedly rob money out of people's merch bags because they are not going to pay us. Um, yeah, run away from merch cuts, fight people over merch cuts. It just ruins it. Like music is a sacred outlet for me, and I don't want all that bullshit to be connected to music in my life. The other thing is when something like cancer comes into your life, you realize how precious time is. Like all these accolades are like, oh, we got to do this fest or we get to do this tour. We got like, if I'm having to spend time out of every day just like fighting tooth and nail to get one little inch higher on the ladder, that's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's just no longer worth it to me. Like I've done enough cool, fulfilling, awesome, surreal shit that I never thought I would be able to do. I'm good. Like I'm satisfied. And I don't want to spend another second like breaking my back and compromising my principles to try to like get one over on somebody else. Most of the time, like people who are in bands that I'm friends with and shit, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. The other thing, like this Live Nation monopoly is not really the only monopoly. There's even like kind of an underground monopoly now. And anything, you can take anything. It's happening to the whole world. Pretty soon there's going to be like whatever, whoever just bought up Paramount, Warner Brothers bought up Paramount or whatever. We're inching more and more towards a reality where there really is going to only be like two or three companies that own everything. We're like really close to that, right? I'm talking on the corporate level. But even on the underground level, there's not that many people running the whole show. And when you end up with a situation like that, where there's not a lot of diverse, I don't know, little ecosystems, things just get worse and worse and worse and worse. You wonder why they keep announcing tours, and it's like, that tour's fucking lame. That tour's fucking lame. I think I've seen one cool tour announcement last like 3 years or something. Um, and the reason being is because there's only a few managers and few agents like running this whole shit. And so they're going to load up everything that they can with their own bands. So it's like the same handful of bands over and over and over every tour, and they get pushed. Um, Unfortunately, I would never say this about the listeners of Big Riff Energy, but unfortunately, your average person uh needs to be told what's cool. They can't figure it out on their own. They need to be told what they like. They need to be told what's good. And yeah, that most people just are not. It's kind of a cliche teenage angsty thing to say, but most people are not capable of thinking for themselves. If they were, we would have presidential elections where there were zero votes cast for anybody. You know, if people thought for themselves, they'd be like, oh, wait, and no one would vote for a president, you know? Uh, so yeah, these agents and managers and labels and people are just like pushing shit on everybody. And randomly, every once in a while, it'll be good. Like Castle Rat, really good. They're being pushed really hard, but they're fucking great. But that's almost kind of just happens like randomly, right? This is just a glimpse behind the curtain. I could do a whole, like, I could do 12-hour long episodes on this, but I'm just trying to paint a broad picture of like how frustrating and exhausting the whole thing is and how much that detracts from like the whole point of my life, which is to write and record and play music. That's what I like to do. So that's reason one, industry bullshit, right? I'm just tired of it. I'm not going to do it anymore. Reason number two, just got a lot of personal things going on logistically that need to be handled right now, right? So I figured it's a good time to just step away, take care of everything. There's health stuff going on. There's death happening. Um, that we're trying to do a cross country move once things kind of like square away. So that takes a lot of energy and focus, right? Prioritizing my loved ones and my actual life. Okay. Not my Instagram, look at me, look how good I'm doing, which y'all, most of these bands that you think are crushing it, if you look at their social media, they're not. They're having a hard time. Even bands that you think are like huge, huge, not having a good time. And you can kind of tell if you pay close enough attention, you know. Reason number 3, this is the last Spirit Adrift album. Every this is just as real to me. It's still real to me, damn it. This is just as real to me as reason number 1 and 2. Might seem superstitious or paranoid, but there is a curse on Spirit Adrift. Every time I make a record, something awful happens. Either in the world at large, but more specifically, like in my own personal life. And if I ever, I almost made Ghost at the Gallows the last album uh, because of reason number 1 and 3. I was just like, man, this is too fucked up. Every time I make a record, something terrible happens. It's like clockwork. And it really became unavoidable. I'm like, it genuinely feels like this is some kind of curse. And I wonder sometimes if it's like I was dabbling with the Crowley, like chaos magic, occult shit on Divided by Darkness. And anybody that's messed with that knows if you do it and you do one little thing wrong, it can like fuck up your whole shit. So I wonder if it's that, or I wonder if it's just, I don't know, if it's just life, or if it's just coincidence or whatever. But whatever it is, if I ever doubted it, making Infinite Illumination has erased any doubt. And I just, regardless of curse or not, like every Spirit Adrift album I've ever made has been an extremely taxing, grueling, like difficult process. There's never been one that was like easy. There's been some that were smooth logistically, but not easy emotionally, not easy in other ways. Um, and I don't think I can do it again. So when I was writing Infinite Illumination, I knew it was going to be the last one. And I wanted it to just be like, I wanted to stomp everybody out and walk away. You know what I mean? Like a lot of bands they crawl out on their hands and knees, begging and beaten and broken and bruised and battered, and they go crawling out, or just kind of drift away or whatever. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to beat the shit out of the whole fucking world and walk out on my 2 feet with my head high. So that was kind of in my mind when I started writing. I went back to Curse of Conception because I think that's really when things started clicking. And I wasn't consciously aware of it on Curse of Conception, but I was with Infinite Illumination. There's a Venn diagram. The first 2 like subgenres of metal I got into are doom and thrash. The old stuff, right? So Black Sabbath, I mean, that's like top. That's what got me into this shit for real. But beyond that, it's like Pentagram, Saint Vitus, Trouble, and later Solitude Aeternus, and later Candlemass, right? There's one circle. The other circle, first 4 Metallica records, Exodus, Bonded by Blood, first couple of Testament records, first 4 or 5 Slayer albums, Arise, Beneath the Remains, stuff like that. So there's the Venn diagram. With this record, I was really, really trying to focus on the connective tissue between those 2 worlds, right? What do those things have in common? Old school doom, old school thrash. So that was the goal. And I had that like distinctly in mind the entire time. And there you go. That's it. I can get into the themes of the record later with some of these questions that y'all asked. I do want to thank you guys for all the emails. I've been like completely overwhelmed. Um, I read all of them. I'm sorry I haven't responded to a lot of them. I won't be able to respond to all of them this episode, but I'll try to get through them all in the next couple episodes. There's a lot going on. There was a death in the family. There's yeah, all kinds of shit going on. But okay, yeah, if you want to pick up the new record Infinite Illumination, there's links below. You can get vinyl from 20 Buck Spin directly or from their Bandcamp. And if you want other stuff, merch like this t-shirt, Ghost at the Gallows vinyl, or if you just want to buy our digital discography, which is heavily discounted right now, you can go to the Spirit Adrift Bandcamp. That helps me out a lot. That all goes directly to us. So thank you. Before we get to questions, let's do the best riffs of 1988, which friend of the show and legend who we met in Grand Rapids, I believe, Shep, actually called 2 out of the 3 of these, which is shocking. Knowing me, though, Metallica and Slayer are going to be on this like any year they put a record out. So we got 3. We got 3 for 1988. It's the year of my birth, coincidentally, so it's kind of perfect for this episode. First one from And Justice for All. Man, And Justice for All, production wise, whatever, weird, but I would say it might have the most sick riffs per minute of any Metallica record. You could pick, I wanted to put Shortest Straw on here. I wanted to put Harvester of Sorrow on here. I mean, you could almost pick any riff from Justice. But that Blackened breakdown, God, is heavy. That's like for 1988, that's about as heavy as it gets. Okay, so Slayer is going to be on here. So here's our Slayer riff. Mandatory Suicide, Hanneman riff. When I saw them at Ozfest 04, so 3 years after 9/11, Tom from Slayer dedicated that song to the troops. Some guy chucked a beer at him, hit him in the face, and holy shit, that guy got swarmed like a zombie movie or something. And yeah, about 30 people kicked the shit out of that guy, and they threw him out for his own safety. So that's my Mandatory Suicide memory. I love those like mid-tempo Hanneman riffs. Okay, last one. Yeah, really, really, really good riff. Really simple. Danzig. Twist of Cain. Obviously a huge inspiration to me for the Neon Nightmare stuff. I was kind of surprised how few people were calling me out for the Danzig parts in the Neon Nightmare thing. I think because the guitar tone was so chorusy and typo negative-y, people didn't really realize I'm biting a lot of vibes from John Christ and Danzig. John Christ was supposed to be on the record too, and the timing just didn't work out. I think he was going to play on Window Within, track 2. And yeah, he was going to do it, and we just couldn't quite work out the timing. And I'm kind of relieved a little bit because I feel like the lead guitar stuff I did on Window is like so nasty and out there and just gross and gritty. I'm really psyched with the way that ended up. But yeah, John Christ didn't work out. Bummer. Okay, so yeah, a lot of folks been asking me about Christianity and metal. Uh yeah, two articles that popped up the day the record came out said that I'm a Christian, and I'm not totally sure that that's true. Uh I might be, I don't know. I'm the thing is, like, there's certain things you have to believe in order to be considered a Christian by most Christians, and some of those things I cannot bring myself to believe. I just can't. That being said, I've sort of explored like every religion and every spiritual practice that there is, or as many as I've been able to at 38 years old. You know, there's been times I was really into the Tao Te Ching, which I still am. There was times I was really into Buddhism, which I still am. Occult stuff, which I don't really fuck with anymore, to be honest. I wrote a paper in school on Islam, like really kind of dove into that. Um, I don't necessarily subscribe to anything, but I think what I was saying in these interviews is I'm most interested in the Jesus stuff right now, especially the New Testament. Um, I was reading the book of Revelation a lot when I was writing lyrics for this record because it's psychedelic and violent and metal. The Bible is very metal, you know? But yeah, Christianity's always been around in metal. Like Sabbath are all Christians, even the song Black Sabbath, like Geezer Geezer is kind of similar to me in the sense that he seems to just be a seeker of the truth, you know. And he had some book on the occult and it like haunted his room and he saw a demon or something and it scared him in the other way. The song Black Sabbath is about like not participating in the black arts and not participating in Satanism, right? The song After Forever is clearly like a pro God, if not borderline a Christian, like a pro Jesus song, right? All those dudes were wearing crucifixes. Trouble full of Christians, Pentagram full of Christians. Uh, that Christian imagery is like inseparable from doom metal to me. Or I mean, just subjectively, I think. Uh, yeah. So I mean, there's tons of Christians in metal bands. There's tons of like low key metal bands who are Christian who aren't like striper about it, right? Sabbath is a Christian band. Trouble is a Christian band. Saint Vitus is a Christian band. Um, there's probably more you could list, whether you like it or not. You know, I don't know if Infinite Illumination is a Christian album. It is biblically inspired. A lot of the lyrics are biblically inspired. You know who else is in the Bible? Satan. So like all these super satanic metal bands like Deicide, biblically inspired lyrics because Satan comes from the Bible. So even though Glenn Benton like hates Christianity and hates Jesus and all that stuff, he's getting most of his lyrics are about a character who is from the Bible. So does he believe in the Bible or like what are we talking about here? So my idea that I thought would be fun would be to flip the whole thing on its head and you know, Deicide or a band like that is violently anti-Christian. So I thought it would be interesting and potentially never been done before to write an album with lyrics, not all the lyrics, not all the songs, but some of it, maybe one of the many overarching themes is like being violently against anything that's not Christian. Because has that been done in metal? I don't know. Because most like Christian metal is like positive and like so love and all this. What about like we are going to kill you if you're not Christian? I just thought that was interesting and unique. And it's funny. I saw somebody sent me a little blurb of a thing. I don't know who wrote this, but they were like, Garrett wields his Christian faith not to proselytize, but to express himself in a deeply personal manner or something. I'm paraphrasing. That's literally the opposite of what's happening because there's lyrics like, God shined on a chosen few. We must kill the rest of you. That's from White Death. That song's about like futuristic sci-fi Knights Templar coming over the hill and like wiping everybody out in the name of cyber Jesus or whatever, you know? So how is that deeply personal? And how is your God sucks, our God rules, and we're gonna kill you? How is that not proselytizing? You know what I mean? But yeah, the record, some of it's a narrator, some of it's me. Some of it is deeply personal. Buried in the Shadow of the Cross, deeply personal. Born in a Bad Way is like pretty autobiographical, right? Window Within is kind of like a psychedelic autobiography of something I was going through. But a lot of these songs are just literally like uh the opposite of Deicide Kill the Christians. It's the idea is like kill everybody that isn't Christian. And it's just again strictly for the purpose of being bored as shit with metal. Like metal subject matter, metal imagery, metal lyrics. All this Satan shit's been done to fucking death, right? So how about you do something that's violently, yeah, pro-Christian? I don't know. Has it been done before? I don't think so. If it has, somebody let me know. I'm talking like, yeah, it is fire and brimstone. It is Knights Templar. It's not really like the forgiveness and love and shit that you usually hear in Christian music. It's like, no, we're gonna fucking stone you to death. We're gonna crucify you. We're gonna light you on fire. We're gonna whatever. That kind of shit. It's metal. I mean, the Bible is fucking metal. Come on. All right, enough of that. Daniel. Danielle, yeah. Hey Nate. Can't wait for the next Spirit Adrift album. My brother got me into metal by showing me Angel and Abyss. Years later, I'm listening to thousands of metal songs, recently Suffocation. That's awesome, man. I'm glad you got into metal through us. That's really badass. For the podcast, I'd ask what your favorite US power metal band or album is, or maybe epic metal broadly. Perhaps it'd be easier to limit it to a specific decade. My favorite would be Open the Gates by Manila Road. My favorite album in epic metal would be Let Battle Commence by Doom Sword, unless Spirit Adrift is on the list, of course. Yeah, so I'm not a huge power metal guy. I do like the first Manowar album. Some of these answers I don't know if they technically qualify for power metal, but I'm in the vicinity here. Eternal Champion. Shout out to Arthur, one of the best guys on earth. All those guys are awesome. Arthur's been extremely supportive to me these past 6 months and played on the record, and his solo is my favorite part of the record, but I'm not biased by any of that. The last Eternal Champion record, Ravening Iron, that's number one. If that's power metal or epic metal or whatever, that's number one. Number two, if it qualifies, would be Savatage Hall of the Mountain King. That record's perfect. Every riff, every second is fucking awesome. I would think that would qualify as power metal, right? Power / epic / traditional metal. Yeah, Savatage Hall of the Mountain King. And I love Manila Road Crystal Logic. That has there's parts of that record that have directly influenced some Spirit Adrift songs for sure. So yeah, Eternal Champ, Savatage, Manila Road, take your pick. Matt, I'm a 45-year-old lifelong music lover who's always looking for new bands to check out. 2 questions. What are some bands you would recommend that use doom as a jumping off point, but have made something original by incorporating other elements? Inter Arma would be an example of what I'm looking for. The bands that came to mind for me, I don't know if it really counts as doom, but Neurosis, obviously. ISIS, older ISIS. I've done a top 10 doom video on here, and I've done a top 10 Southern Sludge video on here as well. Some of those bands might fulfill what you're looking for. So a band like Kylesa, check out the record Static Tensions. going to see them at Decibel Fest. And I think I'm missing them at Northwest Terror Fest, but hopefully see some of y'all there. Kylesa, especially that record, Static Tensions, is like, that's one of the coolest records ever. And yeah, it kind of comes from Sabbath and Doom, but it's got a punk thing, it's got a psychedelic thing, it's got a sludge thing, it's got the Southern thing, it's got all, it's just like completely, it's got two drummers and it somehow doesn't suck. So check that record out. Windhand, Eternal Return, their most recent record, definitely comes from the Sabbath and Doom thing, but really does a great job of incorporating like the ghostly vibe of like Seattle grunge, like the, yeah, like the comatose, like halfway in the spirit world type of vibe. So yeah, Windhand, Eternal Return. There's a band from California that's sort of like a hipster band called Wand, WAND. They have one album in particular that I do feel like has big time doom elements, but it's kind of all over the place. That album's called Golem, Golem. Wand, WAND is a band. I've talked about them a lot. And then from North Carolina, US Christmas, the record is called Eat the Low Dogs. It's not really doom other than in spirit, but it's good. Question 2. How long have I been going here? Not that long. What are some bands that have taken blueprint of Sabbath? Oh, I like combined your questions. My bad. What are some bands that have taken the blueprint of Sabbath but created an instantly identifiable sound while still being a traditional doom band? Trouble or St. Vitus or even Spirit Adrift are examples for this one. Number 1, Solitude Aeternus. They're my favorite doom band, period, I think. It's between them and, I mean, excluding Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath's not really a doom band, generally speaking, even though they invented that type of music. They did a lot of other stuff too. But yeah, as far as straightforward doom bands, Solitude Aeternus, I think, is my favorite. They don't have a bad album. Uh, yeah, literally don't have a bad album. They are great. They're one of the greatest bands ever. Church of Misery from Japan comes to mind. A lot of people would say maybe they're more sludge, but they are like Black Sabbath dipped in a vat of like bad acid and like melted human remains. It's all Sabbath riffs, man. It's all Sabbath riffs. People call them sludge or whatever, but Church of Misery from Japan is like the single best Sabbath disciple band that there is to me. Bongzilla too, definitely like Sabbath disciples. Great band. Okay. Matthew, hey man. What was the inspiration for Reunited in the Void? That song is super emotional and brings emotion out of me. It has got me through a lot of hard times. So thanks for that. I would love to know what it's about and the inspiration. I'd also love to know your thoughts on the title track from At War with Satan by Venom. I personally think it's the single best heavy metal song ever. I actually like At War with Satan a lot more than black metal, the albums and the song. I don't like the album Black Metal because it has Teacher's Pet and it has a lot of whack, goofy shit on it. But I do really like At War with Satan. That's a cool album. Um, Reunited in the Void. So originally, Enlighten and Eternity, I was gonna do the Black Flag My War thing, which is have an A side of short, kind of faster songs and a B side of slow, longer songs. Uh, so it might have been like first Spirit Adrift record with 6 tracks or 7 tracks on it. But I got to writing and I had too many good songs that were shorter and mid tempo or faster. So I was like, shit, let me just make one song that's like really long and slow and doomy and gloomy and emotional, harkening back to like the first EP and the first album. So I wrote all the music and everything. We went on tour and I had all 8 songs demoed on my phone so I could listen to them in the van when I wasn't driving. I can't remember if I've told this story on here before or not. But so this tour must have been 2019, Divided by Darkness tour. And we were driving, I believe, from Denver to Chicago. and we were driving to Sanford Parker's house. We were staying with him. We were playing Chicago the day after Denver, and that's a pretty long drive. And I was off that day. We took turns driving at that point in the band, and I was off that day. So I got in like the second bench of the van. I took some mushrooms. I remember it was overcast the whole drive and like sprinkling. And I listened to the songs that I had and I wrote lyrics for the entire A side. So Right Into the Light, Cosmic Conquest, Astral Levitation, Screaming from Beyond. I wrote all those lyrics in the van that one day on mushrooms. And we got to Sanford's, we're kind of like unwinding. And I was thinking about the last song. And I remember being in Sanford's basement. Like I remember this distinctly. And I came up with this, I had this phrase in my head: ride the wave, it will break. I think the next line is all you give, all life takes. I wrote that down. That's all I had. Uh, we found out later that a friend of ours, that night that I was writing that, unbeknownst to me, across the country, was overdosing and dying. Right around the same time I got that line. Uh, Again, it could be coincidence or whatever. Um, I think it's kind of egocentric in a weird way to put yourself at the center of situations like that. So I'm not trying to do that, but I swear to everything that's worth anything, that kind of stuff happens with Spirit Adrift all the time. All the time. All the time. And then, again, that's like part of the reason why I don't think I can do it anymore, you know? Um, so we found out that our buddy passed away a few days later. And I just did the math and was like, holy shit. It kind of dawned on me like I think that was happening at the same time. But what ended up happening is I finished those lyrics right before we went into the studio to record that album. My drummer Marcus's dog died, and then my dog died like a month later or something. And I think Lizzie died like a week before we went in the studio. So that line that I wasn't sure what I was exactly talking about when I wrote it, once we went in the studio, it became about, my friend died. I think I had another friend overdose uh, in between that and going in the studio. So it became about all those creatures passing off into the next realm. You know what I mean? But specifically my dog, because it was just so fresh. She was such a big part of my life. So when I was singing it in the studio, it was about her. And you can hear Marcus and I jingling our dog's collars like towards the end of that song. So yeah, that song's about somebody you love dying, which unfortunately a lot of Spirit Adrift songs are, because it keeps happening and you better fucking get used to it. Because if you live long enough, especially in the world I'm in, like, yeah, get used to it. All right, Maurice. My name is Maurice. What's your favorite interval for guitar? Okay, so for the uninitiated, an interval is just like how the fuck do I explain it? Like dun 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 dun. I think that's like a fifth. So the interval is a space between two notes, right? That's the simplest way of putting that. Um so I'm going to answer this as like harmony. So playing two notes at the same time. I guess my favorite interval would be the doorbell interval if we're talking about two separate notes. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. There's something special about that interval because they found that all different species of animals, when a mother is calling the child, not just humans, it's so there's something like profoundly emotional and spiritual about that interval. Also the Terminator theme. whatever intervals those are. Uh, but as far as like playing two notes at the same time, if you need sad or melancholy or triumphant, so think like Thin Lizzy or Black Sabbath National Acrobat, those harmonies, I believe that's a major third. So now imagine the harmony on that, right? If you need kind of evil but not too scary, so like Slayer, think about those intervals. It's a power chord interval, which I think is a fifth. If you want really fucking evil, so like Morbid Angel guitar harmonies or Wake guitar harmonies, I think that's a so think about like the main riff from Nothing Is Not, all that dissonant uh yeah, the dissonant guitar stuff where it's like clashing and it just makes you feel uncomfortable. I think that's a minor third, but I'm not sure. It's like 2 frets. I go by frets. Believe it or not, I know just as much music theory as I need to accomplish what I've accomplished. And if I want to accomplish other stuff, I'll learn more music theory. Kyle, I've been collecting vinyl records for almost 10 years now. In the case of some older records, I believe it makes some practical sense to collect. However, sometimes I wonder if it makes sense to pick up a modern vinyl record over a CD. What are your thoughts on owning a physical copy of an album on CD versus vinyl or both? Sometimes it seems like buying into a fad slash trend, but I tend to pick up favorite releases on vinyl versus some items I like, but maybe not as much on CD. I don't think there's actually a superiority to the sound quality of vinyl, but something about it I just enjoy more. Maybe that's all it needs to be. Everything is better than streaming, and that is an objective, quantifiable fact. Everything is better than streaming. Everything. Maybe not cassette tapes, but I don't know. Get a little bit of natural tape distortion and it sounds cool. So it depends on what you're listening to, I guess. I went to audio engineering school in Phoenix, and there was a whole day dedicated to CD versus MP3, and if you can tell the difference, and if you can't tell the difference, and whatever. And maybe to your ear, sometimes you can't tell a difference, but it's measurable that CDs are way higher quality than any streaming service, period. So I grew up on CDs before I got into vinyl. And every car had a CD player. I had a CD like tower with the big speakers, Iowa. Uh, all the first Black Sabbath I listened to, everything. It was all on CD. So I love CD for that. I love CD in the car. Listen to streaming in the car. Like pick a record, listen to a couple songs on like the Devil, the fucking War Machine streaming service, or Apple or whatever. Listen to a couple songs on there. And then if you have the CD, put the CD in. If you're lucky enough to still have a CD player in your car, you will tell a major, major, major difference. I promise you. So the real nerds debate about whether CD or vinyl is better quality. I prefer vinyl at this point in my life. It just sounds and feels better to me. This seems like hippie woo woo shit, but I can feel it more coming out of the speakers. And I will tell you, every record that I've ever made gets specifically mastered for vinyl. And Zeus, who's mixed and mastered the last few things, he is like diehard about the shit. He's diehard. And we have so many conversations about like these records need to have modern fidelity, but sound classic, right? So modern sound quality, but like classic sound, if that makes sense. I don't like the modern sounds that you hear on metal records, the drum triggers and amp modelers and like the Mesa. It's all kind of sounds, the same, a lot of it. Um, but I want the record to sound good. And yeah, every Spirit Adrift record ever made has been mastered specifically for vinyl. And it always sounds best to me when I get the vinyl and listen to it. And it's almost like that's the closest that it will sound to listening to it in the studio while we're tracking it, to me at least. So yeah, I personally prefer vinyl. It's kind of a more immersive experience. I can feel it more. The artwork's bigger, you know, it's got like a ritualistic element to it that I really like where you're involved. Like you have to be involved. You can't just let it play. You have to get up and flip it. I like that. I like that it's that interactive and it forces you to be present, you know. Sound quality, I think most experts would say that CDs are technically the most superior form of physical media. Hope that answers your question. Rick, hey Nate, I know most questions you get are kind of serious. So yeah, lately they are. Dude. Don't ask me no questions. Leonard Skinner song has never been more relevant in my life, man. So I'm going for some goofball shit. If you were stuck on a deserted island and had to listen to one band forever, which would you pick between Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, or Slayer, and why? I'm gonna say Judas Priest because they have the most good songs out of all those bands. Um, I think Metallica has the highest peaks, obviously, like Ride the Lightning through Justice. But outside of that, I like some of the Black Album. I like Kill 'Em All, obviously, but that's kind of 4 albums that I could listen to and get a lot of enjoyment out of. Slayer, whatever, yeah, kind of similar deal. I think Maiden is second as far as most good songs that I really, really love. But Priest, man, like, hang on. Priest discography. Because they have all kinds of different stuff too, man. Like they got every kind of metal that you could want. Sad Wings of Destiny, perfect record. Sin After Sin, perfect record, getting a little heavier. Stay in Class, getting a little heavier, perfect record, one of the best metal records ever. Hellbent for Leather, perfect record, one of the best records ever. British Steel, perfect, getting a little more anthemic, a little more mainstream. So if that's what you're feeling on the desert island, you find a case full of rum or something floats up, put on British Steel, Living After Midnight, but it's still got like rapid fire and shit on it. It's still got heavy stuff. Point of Entry, whatever. It's got a few good songs on it. Screaming for Vengeance, damn near perfect. One of my favorite records of all time. I probably like that more than any other record by any of those other bands, honestly. Defenders of the Faith, same thing. One of the greatest metal records ever made. Turbo, different. Got Reckless on it. It's got Turbo on it. It's got some of the songs are badass. Ram It Down has 2 good songs on it. Painkiller, perfect record, one of the best metal records ever made. Every second of it rules, and it sounds nothing like the other Judas Priest records for the most part. It's like a speed. So you almost get a Slayer record or a Metallica record with Painkiller, right? The rest of the shit, whatever. Angel of Retribution's fine. And then you get into these last 2, Firepower, Invincible Shield, 2 of the best records I ever made. Kind of has everything you like about them. So that's, I mean, yeah, that's an easy answer, dude. That's the right answer. Objectively, there is no other answer. Judas Priest, if I'm on a desert island, I don't even think I would miss any of that other shit, to be honest. Great question. All right. I'm gonna try to get to the rest of your questions next time. Uh I'm in a unique position over here, so I'm gonna do this podcast as frequently as I can. I promise you. I guess the album of discussion this episode was Infinite Illumination. It's out streaming everywhere. A little mini documentary on our last show is coming out soon. Links below to buy physical copies of the record because it's the right thing to do, and it's a win-win because it's going to sound better, it's going to look better, and you're going to get the full experience. And they're going fast. I'm not just saying that. David at 20 bucks spins a little concerned that he's about to not have any vinyl at all. Uh, and again, shit's backed up in the Czech Republic. What else? Yeah, so I guess that was the album of discussion. I will recommend the new Neurosis album. What is it? An Undying Love for a Burning World. The new Converge record. I've always respected Converge, never been like into the music, love them, respect them. Their new record is a 10 out of 10, baby. I'm telling you. What is that one called? Love is Not Enough. Um, the new Fossilization record is great. Looking forward to the new Warning album. Looking forward to the new Genghis Tron album. Looks like it'll be a pretty good year again, actually. So that's it. Write me at bigriffenergy@gmail.com. Give me some ideas to talk about. One thing I did want to talk about on the next episode, I think I'll discuss the top 10 metal drummers of all time. I wanted to give that its own episode. So yeah, see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Riff.